Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning, we'll be in Genesis chapter 32, verse 13, through chapter 34, verse 31. Jacob stayed there that night. Then he sent as a gift to his brother Esau 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He entrusted them to his servants, who divided them into herds. He told his servants, "Pass over before me and keep some distance between one herd and the next." He instructed the servant leading the first herd, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? Whose herds are you driving?' then you must say, 'They belong to your servant Jacob. They have been sent as a gift to my lord Esau. In fact, Jacob himself is behind us.'" He also gave these instructions to the second and third servants, as well as all those who are following their herds, saying, "You must say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. You must also say, 'In fact, your servant Jacob is behind us.'" Jacob thought, "I will first appease him by sending a gift ahead of me. After that I will meet him. Perhaps he will accept me." So the gifts were sent on ahead of him, while he spent that night in the camp. During the night, Jacob quickly took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, along with all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone. Then a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not defeat Jacob, he struck the socket of his hip, so the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." "I will not let you go," Jacob replied, "unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" He answered, "Jacob." "No longer will your name be Jacob," the man told him, "but Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked, "Please tell me your name." "Why do you ask my name?" the man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, explaining, "Certainly I have seen God face to face and have survived." The sun rose over him as he crossed over Peniel, but he was limping because of his hip. That is why to this day the Israelites do not eat the sinew which is attached to the socket of the hip, because he struck the socket of Jacob's hip near the attached sinew. Jacob looked up and saw that Esau was coming along with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the servants and their children in front, with Leah and her children behind them, and Rachel and Joseph behind them. But Jacob himself went on ahead of them, and he bowed toward the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, hugged his neck, and kissed him. Then they both wept. When Esau looked up and saw the women and the children, he asked, "Who are these people with you?" Jacob replied, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." The female servants came forward with their children and bowed down. Then Leah came forward with her children, and they bowed down. Finally, Joseph and Rachel came forward and bowed down. Esau then asked, "What did you intend by sending all these herds to meet me?" Jacob replied, "To find favor in your sight, my lord." But Esau said, "I have plenty, my brother. Keep what belongs to you." "No, please take them," Jacob said. "If I have found favor in your sight, accept my gift from my hand. Now that I have seen your face, and you have accepted me, it is as if I have seen the face of God. Please take my present that was brought to you, for God has been generous to me, and I have all I need." When Jacob urged him, he took it. Then Esau said, "Let's be on our way. I will go in front of you." But Jacob said to him, "My lord knows that the children are young, and that I have to look after the sheep and cattle that are nursing their young. If they are driven too hard for even a single day, all the animals will die. Let my lord go on ahead of his servant. I will travel more slowly, at the pace of the herds and the children, until I come to my lord at Seir." So Esau said, "Let me leave some of my men with you." "Why do that?" Jacob replied. "My lord has already been kind enough to me." So that same day Esau made his way back to Seir, but Jacob traveled to Succoth, where he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After he left Paddan-aram, Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, in the land of Canaan, and he camped near the city. Then he purchased the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent. He bought it from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. There he set up an altar and called it, "The God of Israel is God." Now Dinah, Leah's daughter, whom she bore to Jacob, went to meet the young women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, who ruled that area, saw her, he grabbed her, forced himself on her, and sexually assaulted her. Then he became very attached to Dinah, Jacob's daughter. He fell in love with the young woman and spoke romantically to her. Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Acquire this young girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that Shechem had violated his daughter Dinah, his sons were with the livestock in the field, so Jacob remained silent until they came in. Then Shechem's father Hamor went to speak with Jacob and Dinah. Now Jacob's sons had come in from the field when they heard the news. They were offended and very angry because Shechem had disgraced Israel by sexually assaulting Jacob's daughter, a crime that should not be committed. But Hamor made this appeal to them. "My son Shechem is in love with your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Let us marry your daughters, and take our daughters as wives for yourselves. You may live among us, and the land will be open to you. Live in it, travel freely in it, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your sight, and whatever you require of me I will give. You can make the bride price and the gift I must bring very expensive, and I'll give whatever you ask of me. Just give me the young woman as my wife." Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully when they spoke before Shechem and who had violated their sister Dinah. They said to them, "We cannot give our sister to a man who is not circumcised, for it would be a disgrace to us. We will give you our consent on this one condition: you must become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters to marry, and we will take your daughters as wives for ourselves, and we will live among you and become one people. But if you do not agree to our terms by being circumcised, then we will take our sister and depart." Their offer pleased Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man did not delay in doing what they had asked, because he wanted Jacob's daughter Dinah badly. Now he was more important than anyone in his father's household. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city. "These men are at peace with us, so let them live in the land and travel freely in it, for the land is wide enough for them. We will take their daughters for wives, and we will give them our daughters to marry. Only on this one condition will these men consent to live with us and become one people. They demand that every male among us be circumcised, just as they are circumcised. If we do so, won't their livestock, their property, and all their animals become ours? So let's consent to their demand, so they will live among us." All the men who assembled at the city agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem. Every male who assembled at the city gate was circumcised. In 3 days, when they were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and went to the unsuspecting city and slaughtered every male. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword, took Dinah from Shechem's house, and left. Jacob's sons killed them and looted the city because their sister had been violated. They took their flocks, herds, and donkeys, as well as everything in the city and the surrounding fields. They captured as plunder all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, including everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought ruin on me by making me a foul odor among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and Perizzites. I am few in number. They will join forces against me and attack me, and both I and my family will be destroyed." But Simeon and Levi replied, "Should he treat our sister like a common prostitute?" So, we have Jacob going to his meeting with Esau, and first sending a gift ahead of him, and then breaking those traveling with him into companies, so that Esau wouldn't meet them all at once. And then, as he sends the last of his possessions and his wives over, Jacob wrestles with God until morning. And then Jacob meets Esau, who receives him favorably. And Jacob says, go ahead, I'll meet you in Seir. And it's like, okay, shall I send some guys with you? No, 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 you've done enough already. And then he leaves for Succoth. And what does Succoth mean? Booths. The site where Jacob put up booths for his cattle and built a house for himself. Interesting. So, after that, Jacob settles in Shechem, where this son of leader in Shechem. Oh, no. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, okay, violated Dinah, Jacob's daughter. And then you have this whole thing, and the sons of Jacob trick not only Shechem and Hamor into circumcising themselves, but the whole city. And while they're still sore, Simeon and Levi come and kill everybody in the city and take the city for plunder, all for violating their sister Dinah, which far exceeds the sin that was committed here, that they go in and slaughter everyone. And Jacob, rather than saying such to his sons, worries about his own safety and fears for that. And also, Jacob doesn't do anything regarding his daughter getting raped. Yeah, and 34:5. When Jacob heard that Shechem had violated his daughter Dinah, his sons were with the livestock in the field, so Jacob remained silent until they came in. Then Shechem's father Hamor went to speak with Jacob about Dinah, and then Jacob's sons came in from the field. So, I guess spurned on by their father's inaction and their passionate rage for their sister, they go on to slaughter the town. Yeah, this section gives the impression that Jacob's sons were far more offended and outraged than their father Jacob was. Upon hearing that Shechem had defiled Dinah, his daughter, he held his peace until his sons returned from the field. Jacob's refusal to do what is right in regard to his family will encourage two of his sons to do something terrible in response. When God's appointed heads do not take appropriate leadership, it creates a void which is often filled sinfully. Yeah, and though I don't think it was a great idea for them to give their daughter, their Jacob's daughter in marriage, to go off and slaughter everyone is definitely not the right thing to do. Yeah, there was no sparing of the sword. Even relatively good men like Shechem were killed. The sons of Jacob justified this murder and theft by saying their sister and family had been dishonored, but the punishment was clearly excessive. The sons of Jacob completely plundered the city of Shechem, including taking the surviving women and children as slaves. Yeah, and in response to the terrible massacre and plundering of Jacob seemed to only be concerned with himself and the danger of retribution against his small family. There was no concern for right and wrong, for God's righteousness, or for the death and plunder of innocents. This was Jacob, not Israel, in action. Yeah. Carrying on, Matthew chapter 11, verses 7 through 30. While they were going away, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? What did you go out to see? A man dressed in fancy clothes. Look, those who wear fancy clothes are in the homes of kings. What did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, Look, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. I tell you the truth, among those born of women, no one has arisen greater than John the Baptist. Yet the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and forceful people lay hold of it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John appeared, and if you are willing to accept it, he is Elijah who is to come. The one who has ears had better listen. To what should I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace, who call out to one another, We played the flute for you, yet you did not dance. We wailed in mourning, yet you did not weep. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, He has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Look at him, a glutton and a drunk, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. Then Jesus began to criticize openly the cities in which he had done many of his miracles, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! If the miracles done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? No, you will be thrown down to Hades. For if the miracles done among you had been done in Sodom, it would have continued to this day. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for the region of Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent, and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son decides to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke on you, and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my load is not hard to carry. Yeah. So Jesus here talks about John the Baptist, and in Matthew 11:14 says, if you are willing to accept it, he is Elijah who's to come. The one who has ears had better listen. That is, the people of the time realized that Elijah had to come first before the Messiah came. And John the Baptist came in the spirit of Elijah. And despite that generation having both John and Jesus coming to them, Jesus said that this generation is like children sitting in marketplace who called out to one another, who played the flute. Yet the ones they played it for didn't dance. They wailed in mourning, yet the ones that they wailed at didn't wail also. And the idea being that they have this childlike understanding of, oh, if we do these certain things, then we should, then you should just act like us or something. Or rather, I think that no matter what either John or Jesus did, they wouldn't be right in the sight of the people they were ministering to. And he says as much in 11:18 and 19. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, he has a demon. And the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, look at him, a glutton and a drunk, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. Yeah, so no matter what they did, they were scorned. So far from being rejected on a rational basis, they were rejected based on bias. Carrying on, Psalm chapter 14, verses 1 through 7. Fools say to themselves, "There is no God." They sin and commit evil deeds. None of them does what is right. The Lord looks down from heaven at the human race to see if there is anyone who is wise and seeks God. Everyone rejects God. They are all morally corrupt. None of them does what is right, not even one. All those who behave wickedly do not understand. Those who devour my people as if they were eating bread and do not call out to the Lord. They are absolutely terrified, for God defends the godly. You want to humiliate the oppressed, even though the Lord is their shelter. I wish the deliverance of Israel would come from Zion. When the Lord restores the well-being of his people, may Jacob rejoice, may Israel be happy. And finally, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 19 and 20. By wisdom the Lord laid the foundation of the earth. He established the heavens by understanding. By his knowledge the primordial sea was broken up, and the clouds dripped down dew. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.